Hey guys, this is Jay. I just fired up the furnace and tested out some of my chimney bricks. And my chimney bricks worked perfectly. Other than this one being damaged, I moved it around too much before it was properly set up, and I ended up cracking the brick. If I would have waited another day before I moved it, I wouldn't have had this problem. Now, that one I let set up a lot longer, and that one's solid and worked perfectly. So did this one. This one I let set longer, and it set up perfectly. Now, I made a huge mistake when making this crucible. What I did is I made this out of refractory material and then coated it with a refractory coating. And then whenever I put aluminum inside here, and it was hot enough to melt it, but the problem was all the heat was being reflected off the outside of the crucible rather than being absorbed in to heat the metal. So whenever I got this out, the outside of this thing was smoldering hot, but the inside of it was cool. Whenever I pulled out the aluminum, I felt the inside walls, and it was cool to the touch. And you couldn't even put your hand on the outside of this thing. You could feel the heat off of here, but whenever you touched inside the crucible, you can see I can touch it right now, and it's not even hot. And I just got it out of the fire maybe about not even a few minutes ago, but the outside, the top is warm, but the outside I don't even want to touch. So as far as for refractory material, this works great. For a crucible where you want all the heat to actually go in, it penetrate through and heat the metal, this doesn't work at all. But boy, that furnace got hot, because all the heat, this was sitting in the middle and all the heat was going in between. See, I set up these, what I did is I ended up setting these fire rings, these chimney bricks on top of here, and then set the crucible on top, and then put the lid on the top, and got that fire burning really, really hot. But my problem is the crucible is designed wrong. Now I'll just need to go over to doing like clay graphite, which I just need to go out and get a pure form of graphite and mix it with, I'll probably just use bentonite clay unless there's something better, but here's a mistake you can learn from. Refractory material does not work too well on a crucible because all the heat will be reflected off the outside and none of the heat will go into the inside of the crucible. At least not enough to melt metal. Unless you got this thing really, really hot. And I mean, you'd have to have that thing hot enough to melt steel just to melt the aluminum inside there. Because that thing was blazing. This thing was hot. This top. Now, the nice thing about it, all this refractory material that I put on the outside and the inside of here is now fully cured. And from what I've seen, this thing worked excellent. It kicked out more heat than before. It worked great. Now, the only thing is, I'll probably end up coating the inner walls of these with the same material. It worked really well in reflecting heat. It just doesn't work well in absorbing heat. So, as far as these bricks came off the fire not too long ago, and I can touch the inside of them. Now, the outside of the brick, anytime working with this, I could work with my bare hands on the outside of these bricks with the fire blazing in the middle because it was cold out here. It was cold out here. It was cold. out there, but it was blazing hot in the middle. So I really like how it worked. I made my mistake in trying to make a makeshift crucible. So I'll probably order a couple of them and then try making my own later on. So this is Jay signing out. Later.